Hi, everybody, and welcome to TV for Real, where reality and scripted TV collide. My name is Mike Bloom. I am joined by my co-host for this new venture, Sasha Joseph. Sasha, how are you?
So good. So excited. Who let us do this?
Who let us do this? Who let the dogs out? All important questions to be answered, as well as what the hell is this? What
Yes.
is TV for Real? Frankly, we're not entirely sure either, but we're going to try to figure it out alongside you all as we are bringing you a new scripted TV podcast, sort of. We're not talking about any particular show. We're not dedicating coverage to weekly stuff behind an episode of the new hit TV thing. Instead, what we're going to do is look. Scripted TV is coming back home to RHAP, and reality TV as a genre has been around for a couple decades. It's been here for a hot minute, but TV as a medium has been here for a lot longer. And the vast majority of reality TV contestants certainly have a lot of taste when it comes to the other TV they like to check out outside of the shows that they participate in. And so we want to use this as an opportunity, like we said, to have reality TV and scripted TV collide. We're going to bring on reality TV stars to give their takes on scripted TV, shows of the past, present, and future, because everyone watches TV and everyone has tastes. And for our first podcast, we brought on a true television tastemaker, in my opinion. If his outfits are any indication, he certainly has taste. He is, of course, the man behind it all here on RHAP. So excited to have him smash the proverbial bottle on this ship of a podcast. It is the great Rob Cesternino.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So are we popping bottles, Mike?
There we go. Yes. As we can all be found in the club, I'm sure. We're all used to bottle service.
Yep. That's what they call me. Yep. Ready to go.
Robbie bottle service?
Mm-hmm.
You, first of all, if you're past 30 and you're going to a club, the only way you do it is bottle service. Like, this is a truth. So
Okay, I gotta write this down.
You're all welcome.
Is it a faux pas to order?
Friends.
Is it a faux pas to order apps at the club?
No.
Like food?
Yeah.
That's part of being past 30. It's literally the best thing you can do is not give one F and pop bottles and have your 10 friends. Because listen, it'd be expensive. But the point is, I need a place to sit. And I want to pop bottles responsibly. So,
Well, thank you for assuming that I have 10 friends, Sasha. That is very
Oh, you had 2 right here.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, so we're you know what, Sasha? I think we've realized the true purpose of this podcast is to fill out a quota that we can all go clubbing with these reality TV stars.
Yeah. Because we're in for bottle service now with Sasha.
Listen, stick with me. I'll show you a fun time.
That's also a great motto for this podcast. As again, we're really not sure where this is going to take us each and every
basically
week.
In Sasha's latest bachelorette party now.
No, I'm done. No more. I am finally finished. What is the version where you don't break the bottle? Because that's what's happening. I have packed the suitcase up. She's gone away. No, don't call me to Nashville. Don't call us anywhere. Okay. But one club night, the 3 of us are going. That's what I know.
I am here.
Your funeral. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll be smashing bottles on the coffin afterwards.
Funeral to my youth.
Nightmare bottle service rotation for you, Sasha.
Oh my God. So in case the listeners are wondering what this podcast will be about, here you go.
Yeah, I think this is, again, speaking of taste, this is a nice aperitif as to what this is going to be. We're just going to bring someone on every week from the reality TV community and talk about their general likes of scripted television, shows they've watched in the past, shows they want to watch, maybe talk about the state of television in general, but then also just be really stupid and silly and talk about a bunch of random topics. It's an excuse to get reality TV stars onto a podcast without necessarily needing to have like a show to anchor yourself in. Rob, how excited are you about this concept as sort of the grand poobah of RHAP? I know we're part of this big launch of scripted coverage here on the network.
Yeah, I'm thrilled because I feel like while we have like a lot of shows that I feel like are going to be serious about scripted television, that I feel like that this is like not every scripted show is like a serious meditation. And I feel like that there's a lot of fun to be had in scripted TV podcasting. And I feel like that we have two of the most fun people to talk about these shows with the reality stars. Like, I feel like that this is like the party show. This is the bottle service show here for scripted television on RHAP.
I love it. What a glowing review we just got, and we haven't even started yet. This is so exciting because I think Rob's correct where Mike and I are approaching this show with just a whole lot of fun. And this is where I think the listeners get to have fun with us, right? Like, tell us, who do you want to come on this show? Are there shows we should be talking about with, us being in the club vibes?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't give us serious shows.
Yeah, to me, I feel like that this is like when the reality star is talking about a show on social media and everyone's like, oh my God, I didn't know that you watched this show, and they're like dying to talk about it. I feel like that this is the place where then that they can go and talk about whatever is like a trending show that they're watching.
That's the thing, is that reality TV stars, for better and for worse, are certainly regarded as characters, right? Hey, you are someone I'm watching on my TV every week. And sometimes we forget that they are people, first and foremost, and that they do have other things that they might watch. There is a very small percentage of the population that is like, well, I don't own a TV. I only watch this type of show on Paramount Plus. Luckily, I think that the vast majority of the reality TV community, though, has some thoughts about scripted stuff. Maybe we'll get into some movies as well if they're not TV people. There's a whole plethora of pop culture out there that I'm sure they have opinions on.
Yeah. I mean, you have an incredible Marvel expert in Sasha as well.
From time to time, depends if Marvel hasn't pissed me off, but it's really exciting. I think between us, we're really able to cover so much, and thank you, Rob and Josh and everyone else, and to you listeners for allowing us, people that just watch TV just for vibes, to now get to talk about it. It's so exciting.
We're all the same, if you're a reality star or not. We all have two eyes that we use to watch television. That's what they say. Well, let's direct our eyes onto the matter at hand. So yeah, this is just going to be a loose conversation, Rob, because look, you have certainly made some of your TV tastes known. We'll certainly talk about your love for shows like Seinfeld, but I'm intrigued. What is the first memory you have of a television show?
This is a good question because I have really was very much formed by the television. It was, I've like my earliest memories, I think, are like of watching the television. And really, I watched there was a documentary on Disney Plus about Jim Henson. And I was watching that. And it really brought back a lot of memories of really, a lot of like public television, really a lot of Sesame Street, a lot of Mr. Rogers, a lot of the Muppets also. And I feel like that those really the combination of like children's television and game shows really is my television origin story.
I do feel like people do That Show's Still On for Survivor, but like Sesame Street's been on for a long ass time and nobody asked that question.
Yeah, it did have a weird period where it went to then HBO, not Max. I don't know. Is that still happening?
It's from someone who has a 5-year-old. I do believe that I watched Sesame Street on Max. I felt dirty doing it, but I don't know if it returned to PBS.
Interesting. Yeah. It's like the NFL streaming rights for Sesame Street.
Oh no, not this conversation. Yeah, thank you. We are told that it is all on Max, 19 seasons.
Yeah. 19 seasons of it. What about the I mean, it started in like 68 or something.
Yeah, I want to get my footage of Cracked Big Bird. So we decided to watch. I don't know why. When we first had Asher, we're like, all right, we're watching Sesame Street from the beginning. Like, yeah, nothing indoctrinates a child to the world more than 1970s television with a Big Bird that looked like he came from the meth clinic.
Yeah. Well, I did think it was, when you go back and watch it, it's weird how like a bunch of the Muppets and the adults used to smoke on Sesame Street. Like that stuff doesn't hold up as great.
Listen, we allow it's a good PSA now. I think that's
don't do what the Muppets did in the 60s.
Do you see what Big Bird looked like? Do you want to look like that?
Yeah, I do think that, famously they did do like some really like educational stories about when Ernie finally quit smoking in the 80s. Like, I think they did a lot of good stuff around that, but it's jarring.
I mean, that whole arc where Grover went to Vietnam, like, I'm not sure if it worked as well for the kids. It doesn't play as well nowadays.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wild.
That
I
was
think
he was
I don't-
particularly far during some of those stories.
Yeah, exactly. There would be Oscar would bang his trash can around, and Grover would wake up in a cold sweat that night.
Oh my god.
This is the tone of the podcast.
I feel like as someone that grew up in India, it's just half this stuff never made it over there.
That's so interesting.
I'm just like, what is this you speak of? Do I have to now go back and watch it all?
Well, it's all. I'm intrigued, Sasha. Like, yeah, did any of like the Muppet and Muppet adjacent stuff come to India when you were a kid?
Yeah, there was definitely. But again, I think we came to America so often that now it all bleeds together. But I do believe there were. And then there were Indian versions. Teletubbies, I think, was the biggest one for us. And that's the one we'd watch.
So was there an Indian version of Teletubbies, or was it
No, Teletubbies was just regular Teletubbies, but it
Yeah.
would be dubbed in Hindi.
Was there even a lot of dialogue in Teletubbies? I feel like other than
Vibes only.
time for Teletubbies, like I feel like there's not a lot of talking.
Well, they would introduce their names, and even that was like weirdly dubbed. And again, as folks that spoke English, you're like, that's not what the sun is saying. It's obvious, but it's fine.
I'm intrigued, Rob, because obviously through raising your two sons, like you got to see sort of the state of child media now. How would you compare it? Obviously, it's two different stages of your life, but do you feel like if this type of stuff was produced back when you were growing up, like it would hold up?
It's so different because as a child, like in my growing up, so there was PBS, and that was basically the extent of children's television programming. And then ultimately there were like cartoons that were on sort of after school, and then Saturday morning would be cartoons. But basically there was just the shows that were on during on PBS, and you sort of just like, okay, it would be on, and then you watch like the entire block of shows that was on during the day, to then have this era that my children have grown up in, where that there is not necessarily like all of like and I watched, my little brother who grew up really in the 90s. And then there was like all of like the home video and, tapes, and ultimately DVDs, which I'm sure were a part of so many people's childhoods that grew up in that era. But then to then see children now who grow up in this era of streaming, not just of streaming services, but specifically of YouTube, and then the children who were born in the iPad generation, which like really that find all these YouTube videos, and like little children, 2 years old, work an iPad and then go to the videos that sort of appeal to them based off of the thumbnails. And it's really this like hyper micro targeted content that is like made for these young audiences. It's different, where I feel like that a lot of the stuff that was being generated for children that, when I was a kid, I think that there was that at least the goal to educate. And I do feel like that there is still, I'm sure, some of that content, a lot of like ABC songs and stuff like that, but a lot of it is more just to, hold attention and not necessarily to educate.
Oh, that's interesting. I always think about Miss Rachel and all the stuff going on now around her. I was also wondering then, speaking of all of this, are there shows that you were excited to introduce to your kids? And you were like, oh, this is it. Like, this is peak TV.
How well did that go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the things that as little children, it did not translate. My older son, he would watch a little bit of Sesame Street, and specifically like the Muppet characters like had appealed to him. But really my younger son, I don't think he ever really watched Sesame Street. Mr. Rogers, even like watching like putting on like the old replays of it. It's just really doesn't hit the same for kids who grow up in a YouTube generation. So unfortunately not, but I do feel like as they've gotten older, like I do feel like there are more and more things that appeal to me as like a young person that are still probably a little inappropriate for them for their age that they do really like.
Mr. Rogers was he like sort of a progenitor of ASMR? Like I feel like
Oh
his
my
general nature of like you could type into a YouTube video like man takes off cardigan and shoes ASMR and like it'll probably get 3 million views right now. He just brought that presence of, to your point, I'm sure that your kids and like the attention spans that all these kids have at their ages would be like, there's nothing happening. What is he doing? He's just walking over to the closet. But it felt in the moment like, yeah, there's nothing else on. So go ahead, Mr. Rogers, change your entire ensemble. I can wait.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers really did a lot of like breaking the fourth wall and talking to the person at home. And while he would be often singing in the like coming into the house and then, you know, have like all of the songs that like introed and outroed the whole part of the show, he would do a lot of like just like letting there be a lot of silence of like, all right, let's feed the fish. Okay. And just like, you know,
Yeah.
would sit with that. And, you know, I think that in the very short attention span theater that is YouTube, you know, very fast cuts and, you know, jumping from like can't have anything be on the screen for too long without cutting to something else, that I don't know if that's necessarily great for our little children.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen Terrace House, but from what I hear about it, it kind of seems like Mr. Rogers is kind of like, or Terrace House is the reality TV version of Mr. Rogers, where it's just like very nice, not very conflict heavy, and you're just watching a real slice of life thing rather than having your attention directed to so many colors and shapes.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers, certainly, again, there was nothing else on. So I don't know. I probably would have watched other things if there was more options, but there weren't that many channels.
Do you remember what's the first TV show that you became like a fan of? That you remember being like, whether it was buying merchandise or like talking about it with your friends, something that you truly felt,
Yeah.
okay, this is something I love.
Again, you're implying that I had friends at some point.
Yeah, when you were at bottle service, apple juice bottle service at the club.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had like Sesame Street dolls and stuff like that, but I don't know necessarily of like buying merch. Like I feel like that there was a lot of like merchandising around like kids TV shows. He-Man. I don't even know if yeah, that was one. I definitely had a lot of He-Man like figures and stuff like that.
Yeah, Sasha, were you a big action figure person when you were growing up?
Oh, I was definitely a Barbie girly. That I felt like that was the one like mega girly thing about me, is that me and the Barbies were besties, no boys allowed. And I think the girlies that own Barbie know what I'm talking about, where you maybe needed a Ken, wink wink, but like really it was the Barbies that were
He's
doing
just
all
Ken.
the work. Yeah, he literally was just Ken. So, and the action figures were too short for my Barbies. So short kings were kind of just like,
Yeah. Barbie towered over most of the
Yes.
other action figures.
Well,
And
it doesn't
I
help
love
that she didn't walk on her heels, you know? Like that added about 3 to 4 inches to her height.
just Barbie was perfect. That's what I know growing up. So yeah, I just think that the boys were too short for my Barbie.
Was there like any Barbie content that you checked out, Sasha? Because I feel like there was
Oh yeah.
probably in like the 90s and 2000s, they finally, for some reason, were like, well, it's been 40 years of Barbie. We should start making movies and TV shows around her.
Yeah, they had the TV shows, they had movies, I mean, songs, right? Like you name it, Barbie had it. They had books. Every content that was Barbie related, I was consuming. I think that for me personally, she was a really big part of my childhood, even in India. Like, I remember when a new Barbie came out, like, I was at the store, like, it's a new comic book or something, where I was like, no, I gotta get her. She's mine now.
Did that get you into comics?
Yeah, and that's how I think I ended up finding Spider-Man and X-Men as
Really?
well. Yeah, because I was Barbie used to come on for commercial, and then the commercials used to have X-Men. So I was like, "Well, what is this? There's more
You're like,
here."
all right,
And
what's
then I
their
found it.
heights? Can they
Yep.
are they compatible?
Yeah, and then X-Men Evolution, I believe it was in the 90s that
Mm.
I started watching, and then Spider-Man showed up, and I said, "It's done. I'm here. I've made it."
Yeah, I mean, Rob, you mentioned Marvel before. I'm intrigued from your perspective. Were you a superhero person growing up? Because again, I think the way superhero culture is so entrenched now is so night and day to when we
Yeah.
were growing up and like there were cartoons on, but it wasn't so prolific.
Yeah, and really the MCU, the Marvel stuff, really, I feel like kind of missed my generation unless you were really like
Mhm.
into comic books. Like the DC superheroes really
Mm.
were much more prolific growing up in the 80s. There were the Superman movies, and then the Batman movie of the Batman 1989
Oh yeah.
really was like such a phenomenon. But really, I mean, I guess through like the X-Men 97 days, I mean, that for an entire generation of people, like I never knew what an Iron Man was or Thor or any of these people. And certainly like I knew of Spider-Man and Spider-Man like cartoons, but really Marvel was not really on the map, at least
Yeah,
from my perspective.
yeah, X-Men and Spider-Man was carrying Marvel, at least for my generation, and I
Hmm.
think same for Mike, where I think that's what was it, and then all of a sudden, fast forward to 2000s where they said, "Oh, let's go with Iron Man because we've actually
Mhm.
licensed
Yeah.
our
But
main 2
I
biggies
didn't even
away."
know what the X-Men were until like the
Oh.
2000 movie.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, because I think that makes sense because the cartoon was like
Mhm.
early 90s. And so I would
Yes.
imagine that, yeah, you probably felt like, not to say that there weren't people probably at your age that were watching cartoons, but that, there, you
Mhm.
probably felt that a certain boat had been missed at the point, as opposed to Sasha and I was actually probably a little young for the X-Men cartoon, but I
Mhm.
was still watching. I still dressed up like Wolverine when I was 6 years old with
Oh,
fake
so cute.
foam abs and everything.
But insert picture now. I
Oh
need
my
it.
god, if only, if only. Rob, do you remember what's like the first show your parents let you watch with you?
I'm trying to think of what my parents. I just feel like that the TV was always on,
Mm.
and so I was just like watching whatever was on every night of the week, but just whatever, like mostly like sitcoms, and then I feel like my parents, I mean, my mom would watch like whatever like nighttime soaps were on, but I feel like that those tended to be on at like 10 o'clock, but really from 8 to 10, I just feel like that it was all sitcoms, like every night of the week.
Is there any required viewing for y'all in your household where it was like, "Oh, as a family, we're
I mean,
watching this show?"
listen, we were loyal to the brand. When it says must see TV, we must
Hmm.
Mhm.
see the TV. I mean, that was really the
Yeah.
first one I remember was my parents letting me watch that block of like Friends, Frasier,
Yes.
Just Suit Me, Veronica's Closet, when Will and Grace kind of subbed in there
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah, just like in my childhood, just like thinking back, my dad was almost never home at night times. I feel like that my
Mm.
Mm.
dad either worked like shifts that were like from like 4 to 12, or like worked like my dad also worked like overnight also. So it was like probably the exception to the rule where my dad was home like during weeknights. So it was just like me and my sister and my mom, and then ultimately my brother, who my brother's like 9 years younger than me. So it was just like whatever sitcoms were on, just that's what my mom would be watching.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild to think about nowadays. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, there was stuff on every night of the week, and it was almost always sitcoms. And granted, we look back on some of those, perhaps with the most critical eye of like, oh, they were formulaic, maybe they were a bit problematic, but like, they were really churning those out. And meanwhile, some of the dramas were either reserved for that 10 o'clock hour, to your point, Rob, or like were a bit more few and far between. Now it really feels like things have swapped, where there's whole memes, right, about like, oh, the comedies are the really serious shows that have like occasionally funny moments in them.
Well, you feel like even like predating Fox, there's 3 networks, CBS, ABC, and NBC, and probably 5-6 nights out of the week, each of them has like 4 sitcoms that are on in the like period between 8 and 10. So there was just like a ton of situation comedy that was on television during that time.
Yeah,
And like 20 million people like a night. Like, oh, this show only 15 million people are watching it. Cancel.
Oh my God. No, that, Rob, I think is such a great point where now it's like we're spoiled for riches, right? There's so much to watch, blah, 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 but things get canceled left and right versus why are we like, for me, TV has always been a bonding thing with my family. And why were we watching, right, Desperate Housewives, like as 13-year-olds? It's crazy. And then the Shonda Thursdays were huge in college, right? Where How to Get Away with Murder, Scandal, and Grey's Anatomy. I mean, that block was like, we would plan sisterhood events around that block. And then eventually Jersey Shore comes into play. And then now we're hosting it with fraternities where we're doing watch parties, watching Jersey Shore. So it just, all of these, million season shows just have always, I think, served at this like through line in my life where it just always felt like, oh, I can associate them with people.
Was there like a typical treat you'd have with the Shonda night? I feel like box wine and Shonda goes together so well.
Yeah, my mom would like let me stay up late. And when we had moved to America, I lived with my cousins. So all of us got to like pick one snack that was allowed to eat after like dinner instead of like going to bed. My mom was really strict. I had to be in bed and off the phone by 9. But on those days I got to like actually have a snack, eat candy, because my mom was like, American candy is stupid. Like, how can people
stupid?
What? Because she's like,
has she not seen Willy Wonka?
Yeah.
No,
she had a nutrageous.
Not normal. No, she saw those Dunkin' videos probably ahead of time. Because have y'all seen those on TikTok? They're horrible.
What are you talking about?
Dunkin' videos.
Dunkin' videos.
I
Dunkin' Donuts.
need y'all to watch. Yes, and it's this person pouring people's Dunkin' coffee orders, y'all, and it is like you will give up sugar. I'm not joking.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Like the amount
like
of
how much sugar they go through at Dunkin' Donuts.
And
I thought you were
like
some sort of prank where like they put like Skittles in your cold brew.
I'm just saying like it's basically because they're like 16 pumps of one thing, 10 packets of sugar, and my mom is like, why
16 pumps is my nickname.
Oh, Jesus.
Have you seen my coffee order, Mike?
Robbie bottle service. Old 16 pumps.
Is that
I like the coffee very sweet at Dunkin'.
No, Rob.
Like, yeah, can I get 16 hazelnuts?
How much sugar? Because the point is, I literally wanted to end it all after watching this. But anyway, it's just the point is like all of this was really bringing my family together. And then we met my stepdad who watched Big Brother. And then I said, what is this? I'm here. I have really
the ultimate form of the sugared down Dunkin' beverage. They're like, wait a minute, how many pumps of forced confessionals are in this show?
So I really feel like that was something I really appreciated about American like families as opposed to I think living in India, where in India like the telenovelas, right, the TV serials were it was the same show that came on every day for 5 days a week, so they really had to just drag the mess out of it.
I'm speaking of that. I'm intrigued, Rob, especially as like, we have gotten so much more access to TV shows. Have you checked out a lot of international television, specifically shows that are not in English?
No, probably not too often.
Yeah, I mean, I think Squid Game was kind of like the one to break open for a lot of people. Sasha, I imagine that to your earlier point, that was kind of your bread and butter for quite some time.
Yeah, I know. For me, it's like that's all we watched, and then it would be random American shows that would come on HBO, basically in India. And my mom would let me watch all of this, which is crazy.
Yeah, you might have the only parent that would let them watch HBO at a young age, but the circumstances were correct on this one.
Yeah, we were watching Sex and the City too. I bet you, looking back, it was probably edited for the Indian audience because like a lot of stuff now, even English movies that show up in India, like scenes in Oppenheimer, like scenes have gotten edited out. So I think
Interesting.
everything feels more family friendly, forced, but still.
Rob, if I could ask you,
Yes.
what's like the one or maybe a few shows that you feel made you who you are,
Mhm.
informed your personality, your sense of humor, your tastes, etc.? What would you say those were?
Well, so from a like a sitcom perspective, when Seinfeld comes on in like 1989, 1990, I had seen a Jerry Seinfeld stand-up special at my mom's uncle's house. And Jerry Seinfeld notoriously worked like pretty clean. Like
Hmm.
he doesn't say
Yeah, the character
any
is
bad
quite
word.
OCD, right?
Right. But in terms of like his comedy act, and that was like a stand-up comedy special that we were allowed to watch because that he did not do a lot of R-rated material. I think also Bill Cosby was also similar. His act was very clean.
How the
The act.
tables turned on both of these people.
Yes. And both of them end up having, huge sitcoms on NBC. And so that really, when I found out Jerry Seinfeld was getting a TV show. And so I ended up watching it. And I was like, I don't think many other people that were like in middle school and like ultimately high school in the beginning were watching it, but it just became such a phenomenon and really did, that it's very hard to describe what
Hmm.
that was like, if you weren't there, because it was like, it was a show that it would have like its own like language that would come out of the show. And then, the people who cared about the show would then, repeat all of the different like, jokes and catchphrases that were brought up. For me, SNL was like that also.
Hmm.
I started watching SNL, and that was one that probably like my parents would like tape it. And then I had some cousins that were also very into it. And really like in like the late 80s and like early 90s, like we would just like watch and rewatch the different like SNL sketches and
Hmm.
repeat the catchphrases and the recurring characters. And it was really just a very exciting time for that show also.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like the 80s and 90s in particular were so into catchphrase culture, which I guess were like the
Yes.
initial memes
Mhm.
in a manner of speaking, and that it's just something you repeat and like everyone kind of understands this communal language.
And then the impressions that Dana Carvey was like my absolute favorite, and then you just sort of like do impressions of his impressions and just like get them all down. And so you just repeating the catchphrases, and it was just like something that really just was the first time that I was exposed to anything like this.
Were you able to build community with all of this?
No.
Ooh, interesting.
No. Maybe if there was an internet, like perhaps
Oh,
I
yeah.
would have,
That's
but
true.
these were not things that really endeared me to the other students at my school.
They didn't like when you're like, Matthew making copies.
Nope. Not gonna do it. No, like nobody really cared. Um,
I mean,
wouldn't be prudent. Yeah.
were those types of SNL impressions like I feel like depending on your principal, it could go one of two ways where it's either like, yeah, this is fun, or like these things are too adult. Go to the principal's office for saying these types of things.
No, I don't think I remember getting in trouble for repeating anything that I was seeing on SNL, but really it wasn't until like I feel like that Wayne's World kind of like
Mhm.
bridged the gap between, following SNL and something that was actually popular.
Yeah. I just didn't know if you did a church lady of like, why did you say could it be Satan, Robert?
Mhm.
Please come to the principal's office.
I don't recall ever getting in trouble for that. No, but I did not meet like a group of like fellow TV nerds throughout my time in junior high school or high school.
Maybe there just wasn't anything to do in Oklahoma. Because I feel
Yeah,
like that's what we
and
were talking about.
yeah, I feel like, and maybe like maybe the culture changed too, because I kind of
That's
feel like
true.
that if you were sort of like somebody who knew like a lot of like these like nerdy things, I feel like that you couldn't really show that. There was not a great way to signal, hey, like there's this nerdy thing that I cared about without getting beat up. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I think you sort of like wanted to hide that. And I think that one of the nice things about society that I do feel like that it became more and more acceptable to like, hey, here's this like potentially interesting thing about me. That Mike, I think this maybe you relate to this maybe a little bit more of that. So I also in the 90s got very into Star Trek. And Sasha, I was like, I wanted people to know that I wanted the right people to know I like Star Trek, but I was also deathly afraid that somebody would find out that I liked Star
Oh
Trek.
yeah. Oh, I'm feeling this so hard.
I'm gonna
I
go
was-
back and find these people and fight them for
Was
you.
there
was
was there like a Friends of Judy code word you could use for fellow Trekkies?
I don't know if in my high school and there was any other person who cared about Star Trek because I was so afraid to say to somebody that I really liked Star Trek to the point that I wanted to write like a Star Trek fan fiction.
Ooh.
And I was like, I deeply cared about Star Trek, but I was also terrified that somebody would find out, the wrong person would find out that I deeply cared about Star Trek.
And then it's social suicide that you could never recover. Do you remember?
I was struggling to begin with.
Let me find these people. That's all I have to say.
Do you
Just let
remember?
me
Do
add
you
them.
remember what the fan fiction was about?
Yeah, that's what I'm. Thank you.
Who did you
I
ship besides the Enterprise?
Boy, I don't even know if like I
Do
felt
it.
like I read like a thing about how like a lot of like the Star Trek storylines were like sort of like based in like morality. Like those were like the best Star Trek ones. And that there was I think that this was, and again, I think that I hope I'm not going to get canceled over like my idea.
Rob, you were the original Tumblr girly.
For
That's what I need you to
my
know.
idea, because it's still like a little bit of like a hot button issue.
Rob, one day someone said that like, oh, I like Twilight. Let me set it in an office.
I believe
and
it was
shit
actually going to
Grimoire.
be a Deep Space Nine episode. Actually, it might have been maybe more of like a spec script than a novelization.
Wow.
And in this spec script,
This is trademark. No one steal it. We will fight.
IP.
I believe
the Deep Space Nine crew was going to, and I don't think this ever got much past like an outline. But I thought this was a good idea that the race that the Deep Space Nine crew encounters, that as like their way of like making first contact, there was like some sort of way that Dax was with child.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
And then there was some debate of like, I don't know if I want to have this baby. But there was not like there wasn't like an intercourse scene. Like I don't know, they had some sort of a way.
Well, that's how Kira Nerys got pregnant, right? It was like she got in an accident and like they transferred Keiko's baby to her in the process.
And so basically it was like, hey, this baby is like the symbol of our our peace. And she's like, well, I don't want this baby. Like, so This will
Yeah.
get me a hot button issue.
And for the uninitiated, Jadzia Dax was a trill, which was a species that basically like regenerated into different bodies via like a weird little worm that got placed inside different people. It was actually a very nice allegory for trans narratives. But yeah, that would be. I think Jadzia Dax would definitely have like the "I'm too old for this shit" narrative when it came to getting pregnant.
Yeah, but it didn't really get much past of like this was like in a concept of like because a lot of like the Star Trek storylines were like morality tales of like dealing with different issues of Riker, like they encountered a planet where everybody was basically like asexual, and if
Mhm.
you like exhibited any sort of like gender tendency, you were like banished from the planet. And then Riker had like a romantic relationship with somebody. So and that seemed to be like the type of stories that they were making.
Yeah, it almost always involves Will Riker sticking his dick where it doesn't belong and causing mayhem in the quadrant. That's like, Rob, is that like the summary of like 20% of Star Trek: The Next Generation
Oh
I
episodes?
guess
my
so. I
God.
never thought of it that way. Yeah, I didn't. I never ran into Mike Bloom as a young
That's the
person.
problem. How do we, get young Robin, young Mike Bloom to be
Oh,
friends?
if
Oh,
only
if
I would have met
only.
Mike
That would have been
Bloom.
so great.
Yeah.
Rob, there's so much TV that was out there that I'm sure even you missed, whether due to like schooling, Survivor, etc. What's one show that you like missed the boat on that you are either catching up on or like have watched recently? Do you remember?
Hmm. I don't know if there was anything. I'm trying to think from like that era, but I do feel like always regret that I did not watch The West Wing as it
Mm.
aired, and I was in college at the time, so it wasn't a great time for me to be able to catch The West Wing. But there was a point where maybe it was during COVID where I watched like a good like season and a half of it, and actually really enjoyed it.
Oh, same, Rob. I
Yeah.
I that was one where I was like, everyone says they like it. Maybe I should watch it. And one season, and this was nice. But
Yeah.
how do y'all feel about these new TV shows not having these long seasons? Because I feel like that's a big conversation in scripted TV.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to Star Trek, that's something that has certainly been brought up in like viral tweets, I think, is people saying, oh, yeah, why don't we have the 26 episode seasons anymore? Where, yeah, some of them might be trash, but you're also getting like fun hangout episodes, and it becomes less intense that like something has to get done in each of the 8 episodes. I mean, it's tough because the downside of us shrinking is I like sort of concentrating storylines, but now we're starting out to also get to the extent of like, they just keep drawing the line back. Bridgerton
Mm.
is
Oh,
doing an
dude.
8 episode season in
Mm-mm.
2 4 episode batches, which is just absolutely wild to
No,
me.
I'm actually wanting to fight these people over this.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting is in terms of like the week to week where Sasha started a lot of this talking about like the communal experience around
Mhm.
the TV show. And as less and less shows sort of air in that sort of, week to week mode, then there's less and less of a reason. If you're going to sit there and binge a show, are you going to sit there and binge 22 episodes of a show in a weekend? Doesn't really work that way. But if you're trying to like make your weekly appointment viewing slot, and really, we're very fortunate, like in the reality world where we have like a show like Survivor that airs, basically, you get 26 episodes a year, half the
Mhm.
year
Mhm.
you get a new Survivor on a Wednesday night. And there's not many other TV shows that you could watch where you're going to eat that much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
big
it's very
agree.
it's very true. So, and it's also always a case of like you don't know what you've got till it's gone. I remember when Mad Men came on because I sort of missed the boat on shows like The Wire that did actually truncate down to like
Mhm.
13 episode seasons. When I saw that Mad Men would put like 13 episodes out, I was like, is this illegal? I thought you're not allowed to do this. And then as a result, it became again much more concentrated. It felt a little less fluffy, like you have to fill a quota.
Well,
But the more we became used to that, the more now we're like, yeah, we kind of want a little bit more vibes episodes.
yeah, and really, The Sopranos changed the game, and I think that was one where that was another very formative show for me because I had not really watched like a drama like that before. I was not a day one Sopranos viewer. It was the summer of 2000, and I spent my time living in Oswego, New York, where I went to college. And my friend Tommy Trinchetella, he bought the.
That man sounds like if you poke him, he bleeds pepperoni.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, TT, like, what's going on?
Yeah, he bought seasons 1 and 2 of The Sopranos on VHS on eBay. And we then, as like I was sort of like shirking any human responsibilities that I had, we watched the entire run of The Sopranos on VHS as complete degenerates, and that was where I picked up The Sopranos. And really, it was so incredible. I mean, that's really like the first, like, it marks the era of prestige TV. And I think that was 13 episodes, and really so many other like high prestige dramas followed suit.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably my biggest pop culture blind spot is I have never seen The Sopranos.
Me either, Mike.
Oh my God. Get Nicole on here. Well, I guess Nicole's not a reality star.
She is in my heart.
She almost
I don't know
was.
about y'all.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, it's something that for whatever reason, like, well, my own origin story is that just due to living with hyper anxiety, I didn't get into dramas until Lost, and even after that, I was sort of picking and choosing. So obviously, Sopranos ended in like 2006, and for a while, outside of Tommy Tuppertini or whatever,
I think The Sopranos ends a little, maybe 2007. But yes,
yeah. So other than that, it wasn't really accessible to like get easy access to watch these things freely. Like I remember one summer at home from college and going to the library and binging all of 6 Feet Under, because like that's how you got random HBO shows back in the day.
That's true. I remember.
But I really, everything on HBO, everything important on HBO, like that Sunday 9 p.m. time slot, I think I watched most everything that would come out in that spot, even in between Sopranos.
Oh, I like that. I think we have to watch Sopranos now. I was also thinking, Rob, is there a show?
Yes.
And maybe we already know the answer, but is there a cast, right? I'm thinking like Bold and Beautiful vibes, right? Where a Big Brother person gets on. Is there a show that you wish you could be on or be the guest spot on? However you want to take it.
Wow. Could I go and be
And it
on
can
a
be
show?
old, it doesn't have to be current.
I'm hard pressed to think of a show that I would like pop in and like would be welcomed.
I mean,
by the cast.
I think this is a very easy setup. I think you get your spec script in backstage at Desi Lou. You get onto DS9, and then you make a cameo, right? It's like a random red shirt.
Star Trek: The Next Generation would have been the show that I would have most wanted to be on, and if I could, like, I can't believe I'm being this nerdy in public. I guess this is it's such a breakthrough.
This feels like uncorking a bottle, right? Rob, this is something you've pent up for decades.
Like I felt like there was a spot for me on the bridge of the Enterprise. I felt like that the helm spot that Wesley once but he graduated out of, that Ensign Rowe once had, and like they never got like a regular cast member in that spot ultimately. I felt like, that would be like I could like come on in and be in that spot.
Now, nobody clip this out or take it out of context. What race do you want to be?
I mean, I always envisioned myself as myself as a human. I never imagined me becoming like a different alien species.
I'm just imagining you in like the Klingon loaf, and I think that is very fun.
Rob loves himself. We appreciate that here, okay?
Yeah, I think I would have just been myself in like a red shirt.
Ooh.
All right, last thing I want to ask before we start closing things up. What show are you looking forward most to watching immediately? Whether it's something new, an old show that you're binging, etc.
Oh, interesting. I don't know if I have a favorite show right now. I mean, for me, Succession was that. I loved Succession was the show in the last couple of years that I loved more than anything, and it was just so fun, so clever, and I was really glad that I got to be there live for the last couple of seasons. Um, I feel like maybe the White Lotus might be like a little bit of that. In current days, and I know it's more of an anthology show, but I feel like that, I love what the thing I love about television is when it reaches that point of like, everybody's talking about it. And there is, and Twitter at its best becomes that as well, where everybody's making the memes and reality TV has so much of that where it's the ability to connect with people. Mike, when Lost was first on, that certainly had that for me. So I just love that touchstone of like being able to like connect with other people around a piece of media. What's going to happen next? Just where, and that's what I really don't like about the binge model. And it's been, so convenient at times where it's like a great experience to binge a show. But I do feel like that it has eaten away at so much of just the shared experience around television.
What a company man you are. Still watching the HBO 9 o'clock slot on Sundays. That you're talking about Succession. You're talking about
Seriously.
White Lotus.
Game of Thrones. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, speaking of that, Rob, I know
it's
that, you are, well, even though we know scripted here, and it may not be TV, it may just be HBO. I know that you are getting back in the dragon writing saddle, I believe, to do some coverage of House of the Dragon. You want to tease that up?
Yeah, look, every time I think I'm out, they keep pulling me back in. I keep thinking, all right, I'm out of the Game of Thrones podcast game, but they keep getting me to come back. I keep getting older, but these dragons keep staying the same age.
Rob's relationship with Game of Thrones and Westeros is a mirror and he's not. So I'm excited to see, no matter what realm you appear in, to untie that over the course of it.
So Josh and I are going to be doing some talking about the House of the Dragon season 2, which actually my wife is a bigger fan of the House of the Dragon than I am. She got very deep into last season.
Well, I know Sasha actually just watched House of the Dragon for the first time, which was her first immersion into Westeros in general.
Yes, what'd you think?
It was so fun. I tried to watch Game of Thrones, and I don't know why I couldn't. I was like, no, not for me. It's really gory, and usually I don't care about that stuff, but then I was like, it's just gonna happen over there. I'm over here. It's fine. I have all these other shows to watch. Yeah, and then because of this podcast, I was like, oh, maybe we're gonna cover House of the Dragon. So let me watch it. I'm in. I'm here. Okay, that's all I know. Targaryens, we made it. And mind y'all, I get really into the history of everything. And I have now started looking up royals that inbred and what happened to them, because I'm just so taken by like, how can you marry your uncle?
I mean,
and you look that good. You see
not to spoil the history of Westeros too much, Sasha, but I would say if there's a wheel of Westeros history, it's constructed through that, and the wheel very rarely gets broken.
Yeah, it's just I'm just learning so much about royals. I love royals anyway, so I think that's why this was a great foray for me, and just to be like, why are they so inbred? But that's such life.
Game of Thrones, why are they so inbred?
That's really what my
I just think it was hard to meet people.
Yeah, that's true. There's no internet.
I think it's
you can send a raven, but who knows if that'll come back.
A dragon might eat it on the way. I don't know.
Oh my god. Well, I had so much fun getting to speak with podcast royalty in the form of Rob Cesternino. Rob, this was a great time. Thank you so much for helping us.
I've revealed so much today.
I feel like I know you in a brand new way here, and I think everyone does as well, in a good way.
This is like a therapy session for me. I had no friends. The TV was my only friend. But now I have so many friends
around the concept of TV. It's
that you literally made.
Yes, that's why I had to like Sasha. I had no friends. That's why I had to find all of you.
Yeah, you were like, I will forge my own path, literally.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Said, oh, I have no friends. What if I pay people to talk to me?
I mean, listen, I think there's certain people running social media platforms that may or may not have the same the level of faking.
I'm dead.
This was such a great time. Rob, is there anything else you'd like to plug outside of, the hinted upcoming coverage of House of the Dragon, either here, RHAP, etc.?
Just make sure you subscribe to the feed and make sure that you're getting all of the shows, because I know that between what Mike and Sasha are doing and everything that Josh has planned, I think that you're going to be in for a lot of fun here with all of the scripted podcast coverage that we have coming your way.
Yeah, as the kids say, we back. And we are here covering scripted TV in a bunch of ways. Again, this one's a little bit different, but I think if you're into House of the Dragon, there's going to be plenty of stuff coming your way. As I believe this week, we've been announcing a bunch of our scripted TV coverage. So again, check out We Know Scripted. That's going to be all of our scripted coverage, as well as on YouTube as well. Some more links I can give out as that stuff develops down the line. But we'll be back on a weekly basis with a reality TV star talking about their own taste, their history with television, etc. It's tough to say that like this was the template, because our template is really no template. So take that as you want to. Sasha, any final words? Anything you want to plug?
Yes, I just again want to say thank you to Rob for coming on and sharing your Tumblr girly era with us.
Yeah.
Listen, if anyone out there,
if there would have been Tumblr, I would have just been like, boy, I really would have never left the house.
Would you have applied for reality TV if there was Tumblr? Is the real question.
Yeah, I don't know. And really, and we did not have the internet at my house until after I had gone to college.
Oh,
so,
wow.
like, if I would have even been like a couple of years younger, where we would have had like AOL chat rooms and stuff like that, and so I think I really would have like found more connections like online and talked about this stuff, but. I went to college, and then my parents ultimately like got the internet like at some point. Like I really didn't even get online until I had gotten to college.
Oh, that's valid. Okay. Yeah. Listen, someone take Rob back to the Tumblr girly era. That's all I know. And yes, so seriously, thank you. And as for me, of course, you can find me on Twitter at funsize_04. And Kristen McKennis and I talk a celebrity gossip, pop culture, honestly, education podcast. At least that's what the messengers say. So if you're wanting to know why something's trending on Twitter, we're most likely talking about it. So check that out on Rob has a website /mess feed. So check out Mess Magnets. What about you, Rob? I mean, and Mike.
Yeah. I mean, where I am, talking about all sorts of reality
club.
TV. Yep. In the club. Also, talking about everything that's going on over on Netflix with Chappelle on Nothing But Netflix, even though we're talking about a little thing called Ren Fair right now. HBO, 9 p.m. You know where to find me, Mike.
What Ren Fair? What's Ren Fair?
You got Ren Fair?
Yeah, I think this has slipped my oh my god.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Ren Fair is like Succession meets Game of Thrones. That it's all about the succession plan for Texas's biggest Renaissance fair.
Wow. All right. Well, now I found my answer to what I'm most excited for next. HBO, you got me back, baby. Who's slump where? Here we go. So you can follow me at a Mike Bloom type. I'll plug this once because, look, it's going to be a multi-week project. But I'm doing a bunch of Survivor stuff here in the off-season, doing a weekly Survivor podcast with Rob and Shannon Gus on Wednesdays called The Summer of Survivor, which is basically this type of podcast, but about Survivor, where we come in with a different topic every week and just see where things take us. And then on a daily basis, I am doing a Survivor 50 wish list, where every weekday I'm talking with somebody about a Survivor season and what players could and should come back for the upcoming season of Survivor 50. So if you're into reality TV, you want to check that stuff out. Also, Big Brother is right around the corner. But if you're into this fun little hybrid we've got going on, a little bit of a nutrageous in terms of mixing chocolate and peanut butter together, then make sure you check out TV for Real. This has been such a fun time. I hope everyone has enjoyed it. And we'll be back next week to do it all over again with another reality TV star to talk scripted TV. Thank you all again so much for listening. This is already so much fun, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. Thank you to Rob for being so generous with your time and your life, and to Sasha for being an awesome co-host. I cannot wait to keep piloting this with you for the weeks to come. We'll be back next week with another reality star, but until next time, everybody, it's been real.